Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to this
Good morning, sir.
next lecture of dynamics of
Good morning,
machines.
sir.
And in today's class, we are going to continue our discussion on balancing of reciprocating masses. So in previous few classes, we have discussed balancing of rotating masses. In the last class, we started with balancing of reciprocating masses. And in reciprocating masses, we saw that how we are getting unbalanced because of the parts which are reciprocating. Okay, so this Fr, Fi used to balance each other, but this horizontal component and this vertical component of this Fp force are producing unbalance, right? So also we saw that balancing of reciprocating mass is complete balancing is not possible. So we will be able to do only the partial balance, right? And we also saw what will be the expression for unbalanced force. So it was divided into two, that is primary unbalanced force and secondary unbalanced force. Okay, all right. This fu was the total unbalanced force. It was the product of two. Sorry, the this addition of two, that is primary unbalanced force and secondary unbalanced force, right? This primary unbalanced force would be maximum when theta is equals to 0 or 180 degree, and this secondary unbalanced force would be maximum at four positions of theta, that is 0, 90, 180, and 360 degree, because it has cos 2 theta with it. Okay, and during normal speeds, this secondary unbalanced force could be neglected. Okay, because it comes with a factor divided by n, and n is ratio of length of connecting rod and crank. All right. Okay. So this we studied yesterday. Also, how to do the partial balancing. We also studied this. We considered that this unbalanced force, that is mr omega square cos theta, is coming due to it is the horizontal component of a mass which is attached to the crank pin. Okay, mass m at a radius r attached to the crank pin, uh, and its horizontal component was m omega square r cos theta. We considered this as unbalanced force. So this became a case of uh, single mass, single rotating mass, and we balanced it by using a placing a mass in the same plane. Okay, uh, and its value was b, and it was kept at a radius of small b. Okay, so one of its component balance this mass, but this balancing mass has another component, that is vertical component. This is b omega square b sin theta. Okay, so this was also creating one problem. So this horizontal component got balanced, but this vertical component arise. Okay, so in conclusion, we saw that it cannot be completely balanced. It can be partially balanced, and it will keep changing its uh, direction and magnitude. Okay, so that partial balancing was done by taking into consideration some fractional value, that is c, and c, this c would be less than 1. Okay, so unbalanced along the line of stroke was uh, 1 minus c m omega square r cos theta, and unbalanced uh, perpendicular to the line of stroke was c m omega square r sin theta. Okay, and its resultant was something like this. So based on this, we saw a numerical. This m1 would be magnitude of revolving masses, and this m2 would be magnitude of reciprocating masses, right? And we saw this numerical regarding the same. Now today we are going to start with the partial balancing of locomotive. So locomotive, as you know, the steam engines which use uh, the steam engine how they are balanced, the train engines, right? They also face some unbalancing. So how they are balanced, that we are going to see. So the locomotive usually has two cylinders with crank placed at right angle to each other. Okay. So how this crank placement is that? So let's say this is the shaft, crankshaft, and over this, and the crank is over this. See, this is the front view. So this is the crankshaft, and it may be having two cylinders. So placement of crank would be at 90 degree to each other. Okay. So this is the front view and this is the side view. In side view, if we see, if one crank is over here, the other crank would be something like this. Okay. And as you can see, they are 90 degree apart from each other. Okay. So there can be different arrangement also. If one crank is like this, another crank would be like this. So they will be 90 degree apart from each other. Okay. So its arrangement can be two types. That is, uh, these are the driving wheels, and the cranks could be something like this. That is, both the cranks are inside the driving wheel. So this is the first arrangement, and second arrangement would be, these are the driving wheels and cranks are placed outside the driving wheels, right? So this can be the second type of arrangement. Okay. So first is inside cylinder locomotive and second is outside cylinder locomotive. Why these are kept at 90 degree to each other? It is written over here in order to have uniformity in the turning moment diagram. Okay, that's why they are kept at 90 degree to each other. Okay. In the inside cylinder locomotives, two cylinders are placed in between the planes of two driving wheels. Okay, they are placed inside the driving wheel. Whereas in outside cylinder locomotive, two cylinders are placed outside the driving wheels. So these are outside the driving wheels. One of each of the driving wheels as shown in figure. Okay. So the this is the arrangement. Now the locomotives may be of two types. It is single or uncoupled locomotive, and another type could be coupled locomotive. What are these? A single or uncoupled locomotive is the one in which effort is transmitted to one pair of the wheel only. That is, all this uh, power which is coming through the crank, it is transferred to one pair of wheel. That is, let's say in case of cars. Okay, today in case of cars, you might have heard single wheel drive and multi wheel drive. Okay, so sorry, four wheel drive. In normal cars, the power is transmitted to the front two wheels. Okay, and in four wheel drive, the power is transmitted to all the four wheels. So it is similar to this. A single or uncoupled locomotive is similar to the normal cars, in which power is transmitted only to the front two wheels. Okay. Whereas in coupled locomotive, the driving wheels are connected to the leading and trailing wheel by an outside coupling rod. So as in case of old trains, you might have seen that these are the two wheels and these are connected with the help of a rod. Okay, and this is the front wheel and this is getting all the power. So this front wheel is connected to the this uh, second wheel with the help of this rod, this connecting rod. Okay, and when this rotates, the power is transmitted to this also with the help of wheel. Okay, so this is called as coupled locomotive. All right. Now, what are the effects of partial balancing of locomotive? So, as we saw that in the previous class, that the forces were, some of the forces were parallel to the line of stroke, and some of the unbalanced forces were perpendicular to the line of stroke, right? So when there is horizontal unbalance, that is along the line of stroke, it has two effects: variation in tractive force and swaying couple. And due to perpendicular unbalanced force, we have one effect that is called as hammer blow. Okay, this is what this slide says. Let's read it out. We have discussed in the previous article that the reciprocating parts are only partially balanced. True. Due to this partial balancing of the reciprocating parts, there is an unbalanced primary force along the line of stroke. Okay, so the unbalanced primary force which is along the unbalanced force which is along the line of stroke is the primary unbalanced force, and also an unbalanced primary force perpendicular to the line of stroke. Also we have along the line of stroke, perpendicular to the line of stroke. The effect of unbalanced primary force along the line of stroke is to produce variation in tractive force along the line of stroke and swaying couple. So the force which is horizontal in direction, if we assume that the this arrangement is in horizontal direction, that is the piston is moving in horizontal direction, then the effect of primary unbalanced force along the line of stroke, the force which is along the line of stroke, unbalanced force which is along the line of stroke, it is producing two effects. The first effect is variation in tractive force along the line of stroke, and second is the swaying couple. Now, what are these two things? We will study in further slides. Okay, so because of the unbalanced force along the line of stroke, there are two effects. First is variation in tractive force, and second is swaying couple. Okay, the effect of an unbalanced primary force perpendicular to the line of stroke is to produce variation in pressure on the rails. Okay, which results in hammering action of the rails. So what this is saying is the force which is perpendicular to the line of stroke, it is causing difference in the pressure on the rails. Okay, so this force which is perpendicular to the line of stroke, what this is doing is this is changing direction all the time, right? So what is happening to the wheel is there is no uniform pressure on the wheel. Okay, so the wheel will tend to raise from the rail, and when this direction changes, it will hit the rails again. So that hitting action is called the hammering action of the rails. Okay, the maximum magnitude of unbalanced force along the perpendicular to the line of stroke is known as hammer blow. So this maximum, when it comes to the maximum magnitude and it uh, jumps up from the rails and hits it back, this action is called as hammer blow. Okay, so let's discuss it in detail. So just to conclude, the horizontal unbalanced force produces two effects. One is variation in the tractive force, and second is swaying couple. Okay, and this vertical unbalanced force, that is perpendicular to the line of action, it is producing one effect, that is hammer blow. Okay, and this hammer blow tends to lift the wheels of train from the railway tracks. Okay, so it will lift it, and because of gravity and change in direction of this force, it will again hit down. Okay, so it produces a hammering action, and it produces a huge amount of noise, just like a hammer hitting on this anvil, right? So it is very dangerous also. Okay, so let's take the first thing, that is variation in tractive force. Okay, variation in tractive force. So the resultant unbalanced force due to the two cylinders along the line of stroke is known as tractive force. So as we saw, there are two cranks, so definitely there will be two cylinders. So the resultant unbalanced force due to two cylinders along the line of stroke is known as tractive force. Okay, so let the crank of the first cylinder be inclined at angle theta, as shown over here, with the line of stroke. And since the crank of second cylinder will be at right angle, okay, so let me draw it for you. So first crank is over here, and it is inclined at an angle theta. Okay, so the second crank I am drawing with different color. The second crank would be either something like this, that is at 90 degree to this, or it would be something like this. Okay, that is 90 degree to this. So it can be in either direction. All right. Okay. Since the crank for the second cylinder is at right angles to the first crank, therefore the angle of inclination for the second crank will be 90 degree plus theta. So if it is something like this will be, this angle would be 90 degree, and this complete angle would be 90 plus theta, right? M is the mass of reciprocating part per cylinder, and C is the fraction of reciprocating parts to be balanced. As we saw in the previous class, this C, okay. So it is the fraction of the reciprocating parts which is balanced. Now we know that unbalanced force along the line of stroke for cylinder 1, okay, it would be 1 minus C m omega square r cos theta. So this is the unbalanced force, and unbalanced force along the line of stroke for cylinder 2. This cylinder 2 is at 90 plus theta angle, and this would be unbalanced force, value of unbalanced force would be 1 minus C m omega square r cos 90 plus theta, right? So these will be two unbalanced force in, this will be in cylinder 1 and this will be in cylinder 2 along the line of stroke. Now as per the definition of this tractive force, Ft, it is represented by Ft, that is tractive force. It is the resultant of unbalanced force along the line of stroke. Okay, so this is the definition of Ft. So what we'll do, we are going to add these two forces. That is 1 minus C m omega square r cos theta plus 1 minus C m omega square r cos 90 plus theta. So as you know, this cos 90 plus theta becomes minus sin theta. So this value becomes 1 minus C m omega square r cos theta minus sin theta. Okay. So I hope this thing is getting clear to you, that there will be two cylinders, and because those two cylinders are 90 degree apart to each other, we'll have uh, unbalanced force along the line of stroke as 1 minus C m omega square r cos theta and cos 90 plus theta. And for finding out the tractive force, we'll add those two forces. So it comes out to be 1 minus C m omega square r cos theta minus sin theta. Okay. The tractive force is maximum or minimum when cos theta minus sin theta is maximum or minimum, right? Because this is the only variable, the rest all are constant. For cos theta minus sin theta to be maximum or minimum, so what we'll do, we'll differentiate this with respect to theta and equate it to 0. Okay, so it comes out to be minus sin theta minus cos theta is equals to 0, minus sin theta is equals to cos theta, tan theta is equals to minus 1, and tan theta, when it becomes minus 1, it becomes minus 1 at theta is equals to either 135 degree or 315 degree. So the tractive force is maximum or minimum when theta is equals to 135 or 315 degree. Okay, so we substitute this value. Uh, we substitute this value, and it comes out to be plus minus root 2 1 minus c m omega square r, and it comes with plus and minus sign. So if it's positive, then it is maximum. If the sign comes as negative, then it will be minimum. Okay, so this is the tractive force. Okay, this is the tractive force. Tractive force. So this is the tractive. Okay. Now, what was the second effect? Was first one was the tractive force. Second one was the swaying couple. Okay. So let's go through this swaying couple. See the unbalanced force along the line of stroke of two cylinders constitute a couple about the center line YY between the cylinders as shown in figure. So this YY is the center line. Okay, and cylinder is one cylinder is over here, second cylinder is over here. Okay, and this distance between the two cylinders, this total distance is A. Okay, so this distance between this line YY and this line of stroke of cylinder 1 will be A by 2, right? Okay. The unbalanced force acting along the line of stroke of two cylinders constitute a couple about the center line YY between the cylinders. So the direction of this 1 minus c m omega square r cos theta and 1 minus c m omega square r cos 90 plus theta. There are two forces and these two are forming a couple, okay, about this axis YY. Now this couple has swaying effect about the vertical axis and tends to sway the engine alternately in clockwise and anti-clockwise direction. So if trains are running like these are the tracks, okay, and the wheels, let me draw by another color. These are the tracks and these are the wheels of the engine. Okay, so what this swaying couple does is it tends to rotate the wheel in this direction at one instant. It tends to rotate the wheel in this direction at another instant. Okay, so it tends to move the uh, engine in zigzag direction. Okay, why? Because this is nothing but the swaying couple. These are your tracks, okay, and this is the central axis YY, okay, and uh, the the couple which are formed are this 1 minus c m omega square r cos theta is in this cylinder 1 and 1 minus c m omega square r cos 90 plus theta is along the line of stroke of this cylinder 2. So as you know, these two are 90-degree apart from each other. So it will form a couple, okay, about this central axis, about this central line YY. Okay, and that couple, the effect of that couple, that is swaying couple, it tends to move the vehicle in the zigzag direction. Okay, I hope the picture is getting clear to you. This couple have swaying effect about the vertical axis and tend to sway the engine alternatively in clockwise and anti-clockwise direction. Hence, this couple is known as swaying couple. Okay, so this A is the distance between the center line of two engines. So this distance is A. Okay, swaying couple is equal to 1 minus c m omega square r cos theta into A by 2. So this force is acting along the line of stroke 1 minus c m omega square r cos theta, and its distance from this central axis YY is A by 2, right? Uh, this is a by 2. So its value would be 1 minus c m omega square r cos theta into a by 2 minus 1 minus c m omega square r cos theta cos 90 plus theta into a by 2. All right, and once we solve this, we get 1 minus c m omega square r into a by 2, and we will get cos theta plus sin theta. Okay, because cos 90 plus theta is minus sin theta, and with this minus sign, minus minus becomes plus, so this cos it becomes cos theta plus sin theta. So again, it will be maximum or minimum when the value of cos theta would be cos theta plus sin theta would be maximum or minimum. So again, we will differentiate it and equate it to 0 and find that tan theta comes that theta comes out to be 45 degree or 225 degree. So it will be maximum or minimum when theta is equals to 45 degree or 225 degree. We put the value and we get it as plus minus a by root 2 1 minus c m omega square r. Okay, so this is the value of swaying couple. All right, let me do this. This is the value of swaying couple. SWAY swaying couple. All right. So swaying couple is this, and similar expression. The only difference in the expression comes for the attractive force is that it is plus minus root 2 1 minus c m omega square r, and this is the attractive force, and this is the swaying couple. A by root 2 comes into the picture. Rest all is same. Okay, so in order to reduce the magnitude of swaying couple, revolving balancing masses are introduced. Okay, so in order to reduce the magnitude of swaying couple, that is this force, revolving balancing masses are introduced. Okay, but as discussed in previous article, the revolving balancing masses cause unbalanced force to act at right angle to the line of stroke. As we introduce the this revolving unbalanced mass, another force which comes into the picture is one which is acting perpendicular to the direction of line of stroke, right? These forces vary the downward pressure on the wheel on the rail and causes oscillation of the locomotive in vertical plane about the horizontal axis. So it will tend to oscillate this in the about the horizontal axis in vertical plane. Since a swaying couple is more harmful than oscillating couple, therefore the value C from 2 by 3 therefore the value of C from 2 by 3 to 3 by 4 in two cylinder locomotive with the two pair of coupled wheels is usually used. So the value C which we were using as 2 by 3, that is for partial balancing, now it is reduced to 3 by 4. Okay, initially we are doing the 66% of partial balancing. Now we would be doing 75%. Okay, and in two cylinder locomotive with two pairs of coupled wheels. Okay, so there are two wheels as we saw in the diagram. It is usually used, but in large uh, four cylinder locomotives with three or more pairs of coupled wheels, the value of C is taken as 2 by 5. So the value of C is taken as per the requirement of two cylinders, and if there are four cylinders and three or more coupled wheels, then the C is taken as 2 by 5. Okay, so I hope this effect due to force along the line of action of stroke, the two effects are variation in tractive force and swaying couple. So how they are to be calculated, I hope this is clear to you. And what is the value of C to be taken is described over here. In the next class, we will be discussing about this hammer blow. Okay. So I'm going to conclude my class over here. Thank you.